Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being on this call. My name is Lara Greasley. I'm the Executive Director with the Comox Business in Action, or BIA. I want to acknowledge that I see Sharon Neville on the call here, one of our board directors. Thanks, Sharon, for being here. I can see it's a smaller group, which is totally okay. The BIA is doing its best to support the Comox Valley Regional District in communications around this project, which has been a long time coming and is moving now. The reality of it has been moving through downtown for months. Um, and it's this opportunity is triggered. We've done several of these. We've had in-person presentations and materials being sent out through our e-newsletter, all in an attempt to give our members the opportunity to learn, keep on top of what's happening, ask questions. And Ingrid Sly, who's with the Communications and Engagement Specialist with the Comox Regional District, Comox Valley Regional District, is on the call with us, and she's basically the machine in terms behind the scenes of all of the communications, and one can only imagine the juggling that she has to do every day with the various sources of information coming in to the CVRD. So Ingrid, thank you on behalf of the BIA for all of your efforts and your support. Um, so without further ado, we're going to pass it over to Ingrid. This will likely be no more than a half an hour. There'll be, Ingrid, you'll let us know when, in terms of asking questions and what have you. If people put their hand up, I'll keep an eye on that, as well as keep an eye on the chat if any questions come through. And thanks again for everyone joining, and over to you, Ingrid.
Thanks so much, Lara. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Ingrid, and I am the Communication and Engagement Specialist for the CVRD for this project. I've got a really short presentation today, and I'm happy to field questions. We're here primarily to talk about the big changes that are happening on March 10th, which is the beginning of the one-way on Comox Road, as well as Comox Avenue. It's turning into a one-way section moving west. So yeah, I won't drag on here, so I'll just start my presentation. Here we go. Just 1 second. All right, Lara, can you give me the thumbs up? Can you see it? Everyone see that? Okay, wonderful. All right, so here's our winter spring update for 2025. So put that over here. Starting March 10th, Comox Road, we begin our one-way traffic. So what does this mean? So in this first phase of construction, so this is going to be like a multi-phase situation with the one-way on Comox Road and Comox Ave. In this first phase, Comox Road between Farmview, and can you see my cursor? Big pink cursor? Yeah, great. So between Farmview, which is this tiny little access road here, and 17th Street Bridge will become one-way traffic moving west from the town of Comox into the city of Courtenay. What this looks like in reality is that we have to make it so that no right-hand turns are possible anymore at the 17th Street Bridge. But traffic can actually come down the hill and go back and forth two-way along Comox Road up to the construction zone. At the construction zone, we do have a safe U-turn turnaround space, so cars coming this way, if they want to access friends or relatives who live on the road, or if they want to access businesses, which are all open during this time, they can come and do so and then turn around safely and make their way back up into Comox. Bikes and pedestrians are able to actually travel two ways within this zone. So if you are on bike and you're coming from Courtenay, you can turn right at the 17th Street Bridge and you can come. There is a safe bike and pedestrian lane, which will be cordoned off through the construction zone. So you can bike both ways or walk both ways through the construction. And for everyone, overnight, the road is fully closed. So from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m., it's going to be fully closed. People are going to see construction pretty much 24 hours a day in this zone. And we're doing that to ensure that we get through this section as quickly as possible to ensure that there's the least amount of heartache and the least amount of inconvenience during this like very impactful closure. We are very cognizant of noise and whatnot, so there'll be things like beepers turned off if it's safe for trucks and things like that, so that residents as well as just the community are disturbed the least amount possible overnight. Yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So how do you get to Comox with this big closure? The official detour route is going to be from the 17th Street Bridge up to Ryan, Lerwick, Guthrie, and down Enderton. And when I say that this is the official detour route, what I mean by that is that we are timing all of the traffic lights along this detour route to be synced so that the hope is that traffic continues to flow in one big continuous circuit. This might give us a little, like we might need a little bit of time to dial this in, but starting on March 10th, the traffic lights will be timed with our traffic modeling timing. And that takes into account busy times of day, like rush hour in the morning, school let out time, afternoon off work. So the lights are timed in that way. The big change in the traffic light timing is that at the 17th Street Bridge, this will go from being a 3-way light to a 2-way light. So there'll be no more indications that you can turn right. So yeah, we hope that is really, that helps. One of the big questions that we have been getting throughout the consultation with this project is if people can use back road as a detour route. Back road is this little line here that has this big kind of curve in it over here. Back road is not an official detour route, and we cannot advertise it as such. That's because the road is quite small. It has recently changed to 40 kilometers an hour all along the road. And when we move into our next phase of construction, the road will actually close at Glacier View here, which is where it meets Comox Avenue at the top of the hill. So we don't want people to get into the habit of using this as a detour route because it will close at some point within the project. It's just like not a safe detour route for folks. Now, that being said, it won't be closed at the beginning here, so we do anticipate there to be a bit of an uptick of traffic on back road. If the traffic climbs to unsafe levels, and we'll know this because we have been measuring traffic on back road, and we will continue to do so throughout the project. So if it reaches levels that back road can't handle, we might have to close the road prematurely just to ensure people's safety. So looking ahead, yeah, on this map that you see here, we've got two colors of lines here and lots of zones. So the green line indicates the amount of pipe that we already have in the ground, and it's growing every single day. And the orange line represents what we have yet to accomplish. We are making just incredible progress, especially through the town of Comox. We've been extremely lucky that the weather in January was dry and warm, and the weather continues to be, knock on wood, quite dry and warm. What this means is that we are well ahead of schedule in the town of Comox. People will have noticed that the force main crew, so this is just the big pipe, big trench, has moved completely out of the downtown area. And we're actually almost like between Carthew and Beach right now, which is great. The crew that is within the downtown area here, so working in this yellow quadrant, they will have to backtrack to Port Augusta shortly here for a correction in the force main alignment, which will mean that the Port Augusta intersection might be out of commission, Port Augusta and Beaufort Avenue, for a couple days, 3, maybe 5 days at the most, is what I'm told right now. But we will be communicating that as soon as we have dates, as well as a timeline for folks. But that area is under construction regardless because of the Beaufort Avenue improvement project, which we'll talk about in a second. Once the work is completed at Port Augusta, the crew will be at Beach Avenue. So they're currently between Carthew and Beach. They're going to jump back to Port Augusta and then when they come back to Beach Avenue, they're going to be heading west towards Rodello and then up towards Comox Ave. We anticipate that the force main construction crew will be at Comox Ave probably by April. Again, this is quite ahead of schedule where we thought we were going to be at this time. So we're quite happy about that. When the crew reaches Comox Avenue, that will mean that the one-way, which is currently going to be on Comox Road only, will become, sections of Comox Avenue will become one-way. So beginning April, you'll see the crew moving slowly towards the hill in 1 and 2 block sections where it will become like a one-way system. There'll be small detour routes on the side streets above Comox Avenue, which will be signed as detours. And the crew will move towards the hill. When we get to Glacier View, as I mentioned before, or maybe probably a little bit before Aitken, I think Aitken is the road that's before Glacier View. Once the force main crew reaches this point, Glacier View Drive will close, so back road will close at Comox Ave at that point, and work will begin on the hill. Right now, we think that our schedule says that this is going to be around June, July, August. That's when we anticipate that our force main crew will be starting work on the hill. They'll start at the bottom of the hill, working their way up. At this time, the work that's currently happening out here or starting March 10th, that will be complete. And so at that time, the 17th Street Bridge will reopen to traffic. Cars will be able to come all the way up to the construction zone, which will be the bottom of the hill, and back to Courtney. We timed it this way so that people who are living and working on Comox Road, on the Dyke Road, would always have a way in or out. For the next few months, their way in and out is going to be town of Comox. Moving forward in the summer, it's going to be a city of Courtney. So at this point, I just thought we would just pause because that was a lot of information that I delivered very quickly about the force main. And I just wanted to, I'll just stop showing my screen for a second here. Were there any questions specific to the force main or the work that's going to be happening on Comox Avenue or on Comox Hill before we move on to talk about the work that's currently going on in downtown Comox?
I have a question, Ingrid, please.
Yeah.
So I've been asked by people, how is Back Road going to, like, how are you going to make sure Back Road's not being used by everyone? So I hear that you have monitors, and so once it hits a point of being used too much, then you're going to close it. But how does that work still for all the residential people that live there if it's closed?
That's a great question. So it depends on where the closure would take place. When we close at Glacier View, it'll be like a full blockade. So there'll be concrete barriers put up, road closed signs will go up. What that means is that people will be able to access Back Road from Ryan or from any of the small side streets that feed onto Back Road. So those will continue to stay open. They just won't be able to exit anymore at Comox Avenue. So that's what that closure looks like. And that's really just kind of a change of habit. People will kind of get used to that within a few days. And folks who are using it as a through road will stop most likely using it as a through road because it will be like much less convenient for them to use that road. If we have to close it at the other end, which is a part of our traffic management plan, so that closure would take place around McDonald-ish. Like we have like right before the Big Bend is where we would close it. There's a safe turnaround spot that we've identified there for folks. That would look like a 24-hour traffic control person who would be stationed there. If you are a resident who lives, let's say, on IR1 off Back Road, what would happen is they would approach the barricade. They would just wave to the traffic control person. The traffic control person would let them through. We don't use decals or kind of like ask anybody to check identifications and whatnot. A traffic control person is not a law enforcement personnel and would have no authority to stop somebody or like identify them as not living there or whatnot. We just trust and have been working in good faith with the community, and it's worked really well so far within our other areas that have like where we've had road closures, let's say for instance on Beaufort or on Balmoral. So that's how that would work. As I did mention, we do have traffic counters currently stationed on Back Road. Back Road has a threshold, you know, for how much traffic that's allowed kind of on a daily use basis. If we tick up above that, we can close it. But the safety of residents is our primary concern. All of 3 municipalities that have, or municipalities and nations that have jurisdiction over the road. So that's, you know, the town of Comox has this little portion at the end near Comox Ave. The city of Courtenay has a big chunk of Back Road. And then the section in the middle, which is in IR1, is governed by the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, but ultimately Comox First Nation. If any of those 3 municipalities, nations communicate with us that residents are indicating that it's unsafe, that would trigger us to have a really good look and examine the numbers and speak with them about what our next steps would be.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions about the force main? So about the big sewer project and about timing or anything like that along that route?
Sorry, I have one more question.
Absolutely.
It's just about ambulances. So
Yep.
when the roads close, so ambulances are going to be going up Ryan Road and around Lerwick to get to Comox?
No, that's a great question. Emergency services, and this actually is something that you can apply moving forward to all future projects. Ambulances and emergency services always have to have a way through. That has to be guaranteed. Should an ambulance or emergency services vehicle need to access the Comox Road and they need to make a right turn at the 17th Street Bridge, what that looks like is all tools down, all vehicles moved, safe passage for an emergency vehicle let through. That might mean if it's during the day, that will mean that the traffic has to stop. So like traffic control will direct traffic elsewhere and the vehicle will be let through. Overnight, it just means that they get full access of the road.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Seeing no other questions about the sewer force main schedule or about timing, we're going to move on to the next part of the presentation, which will be just gonna set myself up here. Can you wait? Have I shared that? Yeah. Am I sharing? Can you see the slides for the Beaufort Improvement Project? No?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, there we go.
There-
How about now? Perfect.
Great.
Okay. Let's move this over here. Okay, so Beaufort Avenue Improvement Project. This is what everybody sees ongoing right now in the downtown area of the town of Comox. It's been very busy and this has been very impactful to all of the businesses and residents who live here. And I just want to start by saying like just a huge thank you. Anecdotally from the crew who are here every day, they've been telling us that businesses and residents have just been hugely supportive and hugely understanding. And I cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. I know how much this is impacting everybody, and to have the goodwill of the community is just unbelievable. Yeah, and I want to, and Waycor, who's the construction team who is working in this area, you know, they had the ability to set their own schedule. They purposefully set the schedule so that they would be working in this area during the winter, which is the kind of lower season for tourism for folks visiting this community, even though it meant that, you know, for them it's a lot harder to work. Because they really understood that, you know, this area needed to be reopened by spring, summer 2025. So they've been working really hard to ensure that that would happen. And I'm happy to report that we are well on schedule for that. As you see in these two photos, we have concrete work that's already been starting. So like concrete work, just so everybody knows, is kind of like the last phase before we plant things like, we planting trees and plants and things like that. So we are well on track for for us to be out of this area by May. I just want to highlight a couple things that are ongoing, which are big changes for the community, which I think are important to note. The first is that the intersections along Beaufort, so this will impact Norden, Port Augusta, Wilcox, and Church. They have all had traffic calming measures applied to them. What this looks like is that the intersections have been narrowed. So when you approach one of these intersections, rather than having a parking spot come all the way up to almost the intersection, those areas have been bumped out so that there's only space for 2 vehicles to pass. This has been a very effective measure in other communities, and it is a really good traffic calming method. It also means that there's more green space to beautify the downtown area within these little, we call them parklets, which you can kind of see indicated right here and on the other side as well. What this means in practice, though, is that people have to kind of get used to slowing down a little bit more at these intersections, as well as if you drive a larger vehicle, big truck, or if you have deliveries coming to a business, for instance, that those trucks need to just be a little bit more cognizant of their turning radiuses. This also applies for boats on big boats, not small boats, but big boats on trailers going to the marina. They will typically be using the Church or Ellis to access the marina, so it shouldn't apply so much. But in the next little while, as we continue to work, because we are working west from Norden to Church, so between those times, the boats will have to come through, probably Stewart actually, to come through this area. So it's just going to be a little bit more, it's going to be a little bit slower, and just to be a little bit more cognizant of these narrowed intersections. Just to reiterate, the sewer force main crew, so the big hole, big trench, does have to backtrack for a few days to Port Augusta to correct an alignment issue. That should not take too long, and that intersection isn't complete yet. So, there's no paving that's been down there yet. So redigging that trench will not be a huge inconvenience, and it won't be out of the norm for what the folks in this neighborhood have been experiencing. But once that work is done, it's really full steam ahead, finishing all of the flat work. And that means like all of the paving, and then followed quickly by planting. And as I said, we really anticipate to be out of this downtown area by May, which is right on schedule and right in time for the busy season. If there are any delays, I will be sure to communicate those as quickly as I can to the community. But the nature of construction is that, should we have some really inclement weather come in, or should we, something go sideways, which sometimes happens, there might be a delay. But right now, so far so good. So yeah, that's the Beaufort Avenue Improvement Project. Are there any questions about this phase of the project? I see, is there a question in chat? Lara? No?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Oh,
I
that's just your
posted
message.
in there. Yeah, I posted in there. I hope everyone can see it. The link to the sewer conveyance project website, which has, all of the maps, or a lot of the maps that you've seen, updated schedules and postings. So it's just a great resource to stay on top of what's happening with the project.
Thanks, Lara. Yeah. And if emails are convenient, you can hit the subscribe function. And then anytime there's an update or a change, the headline will always tell you what it's about. If it's not relevant to you, you can bin it. If it's relevant to you, you can open it up and have a quick read as to what's happening.
I just I know you're possibly getting close to wrapping up, but I just want to say that recognize Mayor Minions, who I see has joined the call here. Nice to see you, Mayor.
Nice to see you guys too. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. It's helpful to get communication on this on an ongoing basis on what the updates are. So thank you. And thanks to the BIA for hosting the meeting this morning.
Yeah, our pleasure, and thanks to the town staff and council have been navigating with the CVRD through this process. It's a big project, an essential one, but also a tough one to go through for everybody. So we're appreciative of all of the collaboration that's happened around that.
Absolutely. I second that wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
All
Are there
right.
any final questions? You can throw them in the chat or just jump in because it's a small group here.
All right.
Okay.
Well, seeing no other questions, we have recorded this and we'll be posting it on that project website that we shared. And I think that once that's posted, Lara will be able to send that out as well via email, the link. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope to not report any bad news, and I hope to only share that we are on track moving forward. Stay tuned for March 10th. And if you are commuting, please do add a few extra minutes to your commute because you know, there'll be a little bit of growing pains as we kick off that one-way traffic on Comox Road.
Yeah, and thanks Ingrid for your time this morning on behalf of the BIA board and members. Really appreciate all of the efforts that you're doing and all of the juggling. We know it is no small task. So thank you for that. And the BIA will continue to share the communications that the CVRD are doing, put them out through our e-newsletters. So if you're not getting those, please just drop me a note. And then we're of course running our contest and Seize the Day marketing campaign as well to try to help leverage the communications and keep people focused and excited about all the great things there are to do in downtown Comox. So again, thanks to everybody and thanks to Ingrid. And I think that's a wrap.
Amazing. Thanks everybody. We'll see you all again soon.
Bye now.
Bye.